So now we're going to do my composite arrangement of James Taylor's Shower the People. This is mostly based on the album version, like what the guitar is doing on the record, but there's some parts where it's been really hard for me to hear exactly what happens because there's so much other instrumentation and the guitar is so low. So I've taken a couple of licks from live versions, but basically these are all essentially licks that James plays when he plays this song. It's the real deal. And it's really going to be kind of a good bridge to getting into more exploratory stuff on your own, because you'll have more of the specifics of how how the song really works. So if you've done my simplified version already, I'm going to kind of skip a lot of the detail work that goes into like showing you what the chords are, and I'm really going to focus on the finger picking mostly. So here we go. As we go into the intro of the song, it's very much like the intro we did before. But you kind of phase shift everything backwards. He's going to pinch twice at the beginning. He's going to go, and then start doing the alternate pickings. And you see I kind of did a ring middle pointer at the end there. You kind of take that extra pluck that he stole from the pinch at the beginning and stick it on the end. So I do that again. 3, 4. Then he starts to go right into the song. So the verses, of course, start out with the D chord that you're doing before. Very often he kind of hammers onto the second fret of the first string. So the first thing I do is just try to brush the chord, and then he first fills it in with these two, plucks the third and the second strings. It's bar 1. As he goes to the A chord, he hammers the same way. I usually, again, use this kind of like squished up triangle shape. Ring finger there, middle finger there, pointer finger there. And I'm going to hammer with my middle. That's not my middle, that's my ring. Yeah, hammer with my ring finger. And then I'll kind of fill it in with just one pluck on the D string. So if it's in rhythm, 3, 4. So it's all kind of on the offbeat. Next thing he's going to do, again, he goes to this walk down sequence. And he fills in, kind of fills in those two extra plucks going down on the ascending G sequence. It's very similar to what I did in the simplified version. Goes to the D chord, goes to the G chord, pluck, pluck, and then back into the next bar. So try to work that all together. And when you're ready for the next part, he goes back to another D chord again. Again, there's a lot of very simple variations of stuff he's already done. He's going to start on like kind of a D sus4. He's going to play the D sus4 and then play the second fret again of the E string, and then arpeggio down. So next thing he does, he goes to his A chord again, but this time it's sort of an empty A sus4. It's got the ring finger on the third fret of the second string and the pointer finger on the second fret of the fourth string. So he pinches the first two notes. He pinches the A and the B strings and fills it in with an arpeggio. And he's going to do a very similar thing on the A sharp diminished chord. Except he's going to give an extra pluck on the D string. He's going to go na na, second fret to the open to kind of almost fill in a scale leading to the next sequence. So that whole last bar there, he goes, and then he's back into the sequence again. And then he's going to kind of just fill in with two extra little, well, that's 3 plucks. 1, 2, 3. Right at the end of the bars, he does the G chord, he goes up the arpeggio. So that's another way to kind of fill in that extra ending there. So let me see if we can play the whole first 2 cycles of the verse together. 3, 4. Hammer, fill in. Hammer, extra pluck. Sequence going down. 2 extra plucks. E sus, going down. A sus4. back to another cycle of the verse. So there's an extra variation that goes into that kind of descending sequence. First time he plays through it. It's kind of nice. When he first hits the B minor chord, he just hits the root. He just goes, that's it. It's all for the B minor chord, just one note. When he gets to the A chord, he kind of makes that A, it's sort of like an A7 sus4 shape. I use the pointer finger 2nd fret of the D string and middle finger 2nd fret of the B string. But then I have the ring finger here on the 3rd fret there to kind of go. It's kind of the deal. You kind of play a little melody on both strings. You go 3-2 on the B string and you go 2-0 on the D strings. So you pinch the first and then into the G chord. So that's the kind of extra variation that he does. Instead of just doing the straight descending arpeggios like I played a bit ago, the first time he does this on the record, he just goes bum, ba, ba, da, da, fills it in, and now he's back into another cycle of the verse. So let's just start right off with that. He plays his first D just with an ascending arpeggio, just goes, just thumb, pointer, middle, ring, nothing fancy. Does the same thing over the A chord. And then ascending arpeggios again over the following sequence. And then he fills in with 2 later notes kind of going right back to the D chord. So you see, the difference there is, it's a very subtle difference, but instead of having those notes be syncopated, he just kind of puts them right before the end of the bar over the G chord. Bum bum. Make sense? Hopefully it does. So, over this next E chord, he kind of waits a bit before he does the ascending arpeggio. It's almost like he plays the ascending arpeggio, but he skips a note. So instead of going, he goes, skip. He kind of skips the pointer finger. He goes, and then comes back to fill it in. He just goes middle, pointer, middle, to fill it in. So that whole bar looks like this. 3, 4, pluck, skip, pluck, pluck, fills it in. And as he goes into this next bar, he's kind of holding through the suspension 4. He's going to hang on to this ring finger here. He's going to hit the open A, but he's holding this, and then he kind of resolves it to 2 on the B string right after that. So if he's coming out of that D, and then he plucks the open E to kind of finish that off. As soon as he hits that open E, I would kind of drop my hand and kind of get in position for the A sharp diminished chord, because he just rolls that up in arpeggio, but it's kind of going to creep up on you given the fingering of this if you're kind of not ready for it. So both of those bars, I'd play them just like so. 3, 4, pluck, skip, pluck, pluck, fill it in, hold the note. Over that one more time. And then he's going to do the same kind of descending bass sequence, but instead of doing straight arpeggios just going up, he's going to kind of mix up the pattern a bit. He's going to go thumb, pointer, ring, pointer. So he kind of goes up and down a little bit. He skips the middle note. Next chord. Same thing to start, but he's going to end with the middle finger instead of the pointer again. So those two go thumb, pointer, ring, pointer, thumb, pointer, ring, middle. And then as he's going into the chorus, there's this fun little melody he tries to bring out. The melody you want to hear is na, 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 na. So whatever finger's playing that melody, you really got to pinch it a little harder. He does the ring finger and the thumb pinch, plucks pointer finger on the D string, and then he uses the middle finger to get that other melody note. The pointer finger is kind of filling everything in here, so it's going pinch, pluck, melody, pluck. It's the first half of the bar. Then he winds up on this D with the F sharp and the bass. The melody note is under the middle finger, so you're going to go middle, fill note, middle, pointer, ring, pointer. That's how it goes over the D with the F sharp. Middle, pointer, ring, pointer. So that whole bar, if I play it at speed, it sounds like. So you see how na, na, really stands out. Let me play it a little slower so you can see along with it. 3, and... Now we're ready to go into the chorus. So now we're getting into the chorus here. It's very similar to what I taught in the simplified version, but some of the patterns are mixed up. It's starting out with this E minor 7, and it's the kind of alternating finger pattern, thumb, middle, pointer, ring. Now, instead of it doing the alternating finger pattern the second time, it just rolls up an arpeggio. So we got this basic idea of kind of mixing up patterns over the same chord. It's just alternating, and then straight up. And then when it goes to the A chord, it mixes it up. Now, a really important riff happens right here. You sometimes will only hear this in live versions, and the bass on the recording kind of obscures it, but James will usually take his extra finger, or some extra finger he has, and go 2 on the E string, and then 2 on the A string as he plucks notes out of the A chord. So it kind of sounds like something like that. In context, he's a na 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 na. Something like that. Let me try this one more time. Like that. See, and he takes he really literally just shifts the finger. He's got a finger here, and then the finger goes up there. It adds a really nice sound to the chords. But it's a little bit tricky to finger sometimes. I mean, he does it by kind of cramming these 2 fingers in there. His A tends to be like kind of backwards from what I do. He has a pointer finger there, middle finger there, and the ring finger all on the 2nd fret, but kind of crammed in sort of a backwards diagonal line. And then you'll grab the ring finger out there to grab those 2 notes. Yeah, but see, I have a really hard time with that because with this finger so far back on the fret, it tends to buzz for me a lot. So that's why I tend to use the mini bar and then just use my middle finger to grab that. But you should mess with a fingering that's going to work for you. My general recommend, the things I do, I either use, this kind of squished up triangle and then I let this finger go, which I find works pretty well, or I use this. But James Taylor plays it like this. He got his backwards D. He goes to his backwards A. And so I can do it if I really, really focus, but I find it quite challenging. So give that some thought. So that's an important riff that happens right there. So the whole first line, of course. Arpeggio up, D. Now there's another way I finger it even. I just put those 2 fingers in there like that, and it works great. So next line is going to arpeggio up, and then mix it up. So in the other order, A again, mixes it up. Then when I do this sort of last A, I'll pluck 2 notes of it like an arpeggio, but then I'll throw in, it's one of the licks he has on the record. He's got an extra acoustic guitar doing that. So he's going, show them the way that you feel. Pluck. I'm kind of hammering on the 2nd frets of the A and D strings. And it's in 16th notes, so it happens kind of fast. Pluck, pluck, hammer, hammer. Pluck, pluck, hammer, hammer. That's how that last A chord goes. Next A chord, he's going to kind of mix them, next E minor chord, he's going to mix that pattern up again, alternating pattern. Alternating pattern in the A, but now he's got the alternating pattern still going on over the A sharp diminished, and alternating pattern over the B minor. Now we get to another interesting lick he does. When he gets to the diminished chords, he does a 3-2 pattern with the thumbs out. It's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. He does a thing like that over a lot of the chords in the song in live versions, even in the verses sometimes. But here, what I usually do, I kind of get these 3 fingers on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, thumbs on the low E, and I go pinch with the thumb in the middle, and then pluck with the pointer in the ring. That's a start. And then I pinch again in the same place, but then I just play the pointer in the middle. So I go, and then there's one last thumb note. Slower. 3, 4. Yeah, and a lot of times I see him doing this odd kind of. It looks like he's doing a chuck or like a slapping and a flicking, but I never hear any notes coming out. Sometimes I think he does it just to keep time, If anyone figures that out, write something in the comments for me. But when I transcribed this riff, I just kind of saw him kind of like flicking his fingers, kind of getting ready for the next thing. So I always play this like thumb, flick, and then right back into the E minor chords. So let me play that whole chorus again. Usually when I play this, I would just repeat one of these ideas. So let me just play kind of the whole chorus I played, and this can almost be thought of as like the second time through. So I'll go into the second ending after this. 3, 4. Shower the people you love with love. Straight up, mix it up, alternate, hammer, mixed, mixed, mixed over the A, mixed over the A sharp diminished, and then mixed over the B. That's the 3, 2. Now when he gets to this B minor, what I hear is he does the bass and then kind of plucks these. So he does bass, pluck, and then plucks it again, almost as if he's going to play the bass a third time, but it just kind of trails off. So it's bass, pluck, pluck, bass, pluck, pluck. So that's the basic idea there. And then he goes into... I explained that in some detail in the simplified video, so I'll shoot a quick link to that right there, but I'm not going to explain that in super detail here. Let me play that ending real quick. Whole thing from the B minor. 3, 4. Bass, pluck, pluck. C, G. And then he's back into a verse. Now when he first comes into this verse, he literally just brushes the D. He has a fun little thing he does on the A chord here. Rather than doing any kind of hammers, he's got kind of the A add 9 going on where he's got no fingers on the open B string. But he makes it sound like he's going na na. So he kind of plucks the E and the B strings and then the G string, along with the thumb. So that's all for that bar. It's very simple, but it's got a nice ring to it. So it starts out, you can run, but you cannot hide. Yep. So again, the second verse starts out something real simple, just straight up brushes the D chord, and then kind of has that interesting leading into the A sus 2 chord. When it gets to the B minor walk down, I feel like he's kind of following the same sort of, but he kind of skips a note at the beginning. He just goes thumb, ring, middle, just that. So it's, the basic idea here is you're taking an arpeggio we've done and you're just cutting a note out. And this time he ends on the middle finger, so he does thumb, ring, middle, and then he goes down, thumb, pointer, ring, middle, and then ascending arpeggio on the G. And then does those 2 syncopated in between notes again. So that whole descending sequence is B minor, ring, middle, pointer, ring, middle, thumb. And back to a D chord. Now on this next D chord, he starts with an ascending arpeggio, but it's broken up by a different rhythm. He goes thumb, pointer, middle. So he just goes up and down on arpeggio, but the 2 middle notes are a little longer. So he goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And we'll play it again. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so that's a D. Same old arpeggio he's done, it's just different rhythm. As he gets to the A chord on this part, he starts with an ascending arpeggio. He does ascending. When he gets to the A sharp diminished, he kind of sort of goes back and forth. He does the bass note, pointer, middle, pointer. That's what I would do. But at least fingering wise, I would use these 2 fingers for it. But it's almost like he's going up and down, but it feels like you're just kind of like wobbling on these top 2 notes. So you'll see that happening a lot in some other parts. When he gets to the B minor descent here, he does the kind of the kind of broken up and down he does before. Thumb, pointer, ring, middle, thumb, pointer, ring, middle, ascending on the G. And he just does open D, open G at the end. So that whole descent again. And then back to another D. So here on this third cycle of the second verse, starts again with just an ascending D arpeggio, just on the right on the eighth notes. 3, 4. Offbeat. So as he goes back down, it's similar before. He just goes up the arpeggio and back down, but now the rhythmic alteration is kind of the end of the bar. And offbeat, off. When he gets to the A chord, just ascending. This is a fun way he does this A chord here. He kind of does a sort of a twisty arpeggio going back down and adds a note to get to this next chord. So this is check this out. It's a good time. He goes. Let me see if I can explain that. He ascends up. He does thumb, pointer, middle, ring, going up to the E string. But then he's going to kind of alternate going down. He goes from the E. He goes pointer, middle. And then I guess you can use the thumb to do 2 on the D and then 4 on the A, leading down to the B minor shape we were on. So that whole bar again. He's into the lockdown. So it kind of mixes some of these arpeggios up with a sort of melodic line leading to where we're going. It's a fun little bit. So with the D chord. Does our ascending arpeggios going down that sequence. Tacks 2 little notes in there. And then the last cycle of 4 going into the chorus uses the same kind of broken D arpeggio with the syncopations at the end of the bar. Offbeat, off. Over this A chord he pinches. Middle, pointer, ring, and then lets it wait. He does the kind of twisty up and down, the twisty wave, I'm going to call it, over the A sharp diminished. So it goes thumb, pointer, ring, middle, and then same twisty wave going down over this B minor, twisty wave, and then you have the melody that comes in as you get into the chorus. So let me see if I can play that whole second verse all together. It'll kind of help you tie it together. 3, 4. Just brushes the D. Falls down to the A sus2. Skips a note. Twisty wave. Ascending over the G. Offbeat. Up. Holds him in the middle. Up on the A. Kind of wobbles there. Twisty wave. Ascending on the G. Note. Offbeat. Twisty A. Ascending. Does the pinch there. Twisty wave. And the leading melody going into the chorus. And that is the second verse. So the second chorus is very, very similar to the first one. I'm just going to show a couple of extra variations that he adds into it that will just, keep it evolving. It's still kind of got this rolling, alternated with it's got the alternating arpeggio and the ascending arpeggio in there. One thing he starts to add a lot is he'll just kind of hit the 2 upper notes of a chord. So you could use either I'm just using the middle and the ring. He'll do thumb, middle, ring, middle over a lot of the chords. So he starts with, the alternating arpeggio, ascending. When he gets to the A chord, he just kind of goes, second, third string, second, third string, and then kind of almost does like a backwards ascent. He hits the bass note and then he goes ring, middle, pointer. reverses the wave a little bit. The whole first part is. And then as he gets into the second part of this, when he gets the E minor chord, he just kind of does this, that kind of alternate wavy thing he does in the top. Just ring, middle, ring, over the E minor twice. Kind of goes backwards down it one more time. All this stuff is the same as the first chorus. So that stuff is the same as the first chorus. The only thing that's really different is, of course, when he gets to the transition out. So the bridge to the bridge is really not any different than I taught in the simplified version. So now we're getting into the bridge, and it starts out with this kind of open E minor again, and it has the alternating finger picking pattern. So it's thumb, middle, pointer, ring. And the pointer and the middle are on the third and fourth string. So your fingers are all kind of spread out, and your ring finger's kind of reaching way up here to the E string. So there's kind of some extra gaps in your fingers. It walks up the pattern like it did before. Now, one thing you're going to find is very much like in the intro, you're going to start to stick pointer finger strokes in between the pinches. So as I do this, when I get to plucking the kind of G shape here, the thumb's plucking the E, the B is plucking the B string. I'm going to pluck the pointer finger on the D string in the middle. And same sort of thing over the A chord. And now you can fill in these notes if you want with the pointer finger, but I usually just kind of like pinch and then pinch that one. So that's the second fret of the G string and the second fret of the E string. And then open E, second fret of the A string. And then I'll add 2 extra notes at the end there. 2 on the G and 2 on the B. So if I play that whole part. Time, just from the walk up. 2, 3, and. So that's the first part with all the extra notes in it. Now it starts with the same ascending arpeggio on the totally open E. One real quick thing, a lot of times he'll add an extra bass note before the walk up, so he'll add just an extra open low E to kind of lead into it. So with that extra bass note, well, after that extra bass note, instead of just having the pointer finger fill in, he's going to kind of have he's going to have 2 notes to fill in. Pointer, middle, both of those are going to fill in. So, and then he has a really quick bass motion. It sounds like the bass line's always going ba-da-da-da-da. So real quick after those 2 filler notes, it's going to go 2 on the A, 0 on the A. Whole thing is filler notes, bass, bass. Again. Now, the way I advocate getting through this is one time I really recommend using James Taylor's fingering. You're going to kind of use your middle finger on the second fret of the G string and your pointer finger on the second fret of the B string, and it's going to hammer. You're going to kind of do. That's what the upper fingers are going to do. You're kind of holding over this open A from the last thing as you kind of went. As you do that last pull off, you use your ring finger to get the second fret of the A string. And it's definitely tricky. You definitely have to practice kind of like placing this extra finger, doing the pinch and the pull off right after it. So this is a little cluster of strokes that's usually a little tricky to get pulled together. So take your time, do your due diligence on it. When it makes sense, it sounds really nice. But let me come out of the G. If it's coming from the walk up, So you can almost hear the bass. The bass kind of is da 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 da, holds it, then ends on that note. So you want to kind of hear the bass holding through under. So I'll play that whole 2 bars so you can see how it goes in context. 3, 4. Yeah, the really tricky riff is. So really take some time with that. The trickiest thing is probably going to be kind of coordinating the pull-off with all the things your right hands are doing. But once that comes together for you, it should be a lovely thing. And that repeats almost exactly a second time. I'll show you really quickly what the variations are. When he does the ascending arpeggio, rather than doing the open E, he lands on the open B, extra bass note. So that's all the same as it was before. You can hear a lot of times he'll also end this ascending arpeggio on a 3rd fret of the B strings. That's what he does the last time through. Bass. Has those extra fill notes. The bass, and here you already kind of place the A. You still kind of add the last bass pluck in the same place, but it doesn't have to be the 2nd fret of the A string. So you can kind of just like place a finger or what finger the A chord, however you're going to do, and you're going to just finger it. Middle ring, middle pointer, and then you pluck the bass when you hit the middle finger the 2nd time. So middle ring, pinch, pointer. That whole last 2 bars goes like this. 3. Bass. Now I'm going to play the whole bridge all kind of together as one thing. Here we go. I'll come out of... So the last thing that happens is the chorus kind of just rolls a lot, and the guitar tends to follow what the voices are doing. Like there's this really cool chorus part going on, and the guitar matches it very closely. So I'm going to show you a way that does this, but it also kind of adds all the extra finger plucks that you might put in there. Sometimes when you're doing it solo, you might want some of these extra finger plucks to fill in the space. So I'm going to kind of take a version that does both of these at the same time. So it starts out over the E minor 7, and it does the alternating arpeggio. It's like thumb, middle, pointer, ring. Walks up, kind of fills in with the pointer finger. Point. Now it's going to fill in with the pointer finger as often as you can. So it fills in over the G, fills in over there, and then it's going to fill in. It's going to fill in over this kind of F sharp minor thing too. So when you pinch the G and the E string, you're going to play the 2nd fret of the D string too. And then you're going to move this up. Your middle finger is going to be playing 2nd fret of the A string. And when you play the open E, you can either doing a little arpeggio down, or you can kind of just hit one of these 2 notes. You can either hit the B or the G strings. Either one will do. And he kind of hits different ones on different parts of the recording, so they're both kind of fair game. Whole first phrase here is walks, fills in, and then hits any one of those 2 notes there. Second one's almost the same. Fills in with those 3 notes. And he's going to kind of just pluck 2 notes of the A and fill it in. So he's going to pluck the open A and 2nd fret of the B string. Uses the middle finger to kind of fill in the extra note. And then the bass then comes into the 2nd fret of the A string, and then he does that whole 3-note arpeggio. It's the end of it. So that whole second phrase goes like so. So I mean, what you can really kind of hear there is he's trying to follow what the bass is doing. The bass is going, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Kind of like pops up to that last note right at the end there. So really listen to what the bass is singing. Not like the bass guitar, but like the bass singer on the recording. That will kind of clue you into how it goes. If I play the whole thing, it sounds a bit like this. 3, 4. And just to finish the whole thing, does the same kind of walk up he did. He's kind of rolling through. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Now he almost kind of goes back to the way he does this on one of the live versions I saw is he kind of gets out of the rut he was in. He does the pinch pluck. When he slides up to the G, you kind of want to hear this note really. Second ring finger under the 3rd fret of the B string. So he starts alternating with that finger instead. He pinches and plucks the open G. Then he plucks the A and adds a note, and then he goes to the D. That whole ending looks like this. He's kind of rolling over the E minor. So again, he kind of comes out of the B minor. He does the whole things are gonna be much better if you only will. Kind of goes back to this. That's the basic idea. One more time. Yeah, that's the end of it. Challenge now is to try to tie all that stuff together. So see how you do. Post videos, show your friends, show me. Look forward to seeing it. And in the next lesson, we're going to kind of expand on all this stuff even more and just bore more into screwing with these patterns and, yeah, having fun with it.